The air in the lower levels of Nexus Prime tasted like copper and desperation. Adam Reeves pulled his hood lower as he navigated through the crowded passages of the space station's underbelly. Neon signs flickered in languages he couldn't read, advertising pleasures and vices that made his stomach turn. This wasn't where respectable travelers ventured, but then again, Adam wasn't here for respectable business. His footsteps echoed against the metal grating as he descended deeper into the station's core. The gravity felt heavier here, the air thicker, with the stench of unwashed bodies and fear. Somewhere in these depths, beyond the gambling dens and spice parlors, lay his destination. The Crimson Auction, they called it. A place where beings were bought and sold like cargo. Adam's jaw clenched as he thought about his mission. The human resistance had sent him here to gather intelligence on the slave trade routes, not to play hero. But every step deeper into this nightmare reminded him why he fought. The galaxy had become a darker place since the Dominion seized control, turning entire species into commodities. The entrance to the auction house was guarded by two hulking Krillian warriors, Derkatonis. Armor gleaming under the harsh lights, Adam approached with practiced confidence, producing the forged credentials that had cost the Resistance a small fortune. The guards scanned the documents with their compound eyes before stepping aside. Inside the den of monsters, the auction hall stretched before him like a theater designed by demons. Velvet curtains and deep crimson hung from the walls, while crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over the assembled crowd. The buyers were a mixture of species, all united by their wealth and their willingness to treat sentient beings as property. Adam found a seat in the middle section, close enough to observe, but far enough to avoid attention. His trained eye cataloged the security measures, the escape routes, the communication systems, all information that would prove valuable to the Resistance later. But as the first lot was brought onto the stage, his professional detachment began. Dekrak, a young Zenthari male, barely past adolescence, stood shackled on the platform while the auctioneer described his strength and endurance. The boy's eyes held no hope, only the dull acceptance of someone who had given up fighting. Adam's fists clenched in his lap as the bidding began. One by one, the lots were presented and sold. Workers, servants, fighters, and worse. Each transaction felt like a knife twist in Adam's conscience, but he forced himself to maintain his cover. The intelligence he gathered here could save hundreds more in the long run. Then she was brought out, and everything changed. The vision enchains the auction. Hall fell silent as the platform rose from the floor. Upon it stood a figure that seemed to glow with inner light despite her chains. Her skin was pale blue like morning frost, marked with intricate silver patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living art. Long white hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing a face of ethereal beauty that belonged in ancient songs rather than this place of horrors. But it was her eyes that stopped Adam's breath. Large and luminous, they held depths of intelligence and pain that spoke of a mind far too sophisticated for captivity. When her gaze swept across the crowd, Adam felt something electric pass through him, as if she had looked directly into his soul. "Behold, honored buyers," the auctioneer's voice boomed through the hall, a rare prize indeed. "From the distant world of Valeris, we present Ilya Vox of the Mindwalker caste. Note the exquisite bone structure, the natural luminescence of her markings, but her true value lies in her psychic abilities." A murmur of excitement rippled through. The crowd, psychics, were incredibly rare and valuable, their mental gifts making them perfect for a variety of specialized roles. Adam watched in growing horror as the buyers leaned forward, their eyes gleaming with avarice. "The specimen has been properly conditioned," the auctioneer continued, her more dangerous abilities suppressed through neural dampening technology. "She retains enough sensitivity for emotional reading and basic telepathy. It's making her ideal for personal service or entertainment." Adam saw Ilya flinch at the word specimen, saw the way her shoulders tensed despite her apparent resignation. The neural dampener around her neck pulsed with a sickly green light, and he realized it wasn't just suppressing her powers, but causing her constant pain. The connection, the bidding started at 50,000 credits. Fortune by any reasonable standard. Adam watched the numbers climb, telling himself this wasn't his fight. He was here for intelligence, not rescue missions. The resistance needed the information more than one person needed saving. But then it happened. As the bidding reached 200,000 credits, Ilya's eyes found his across the crowded hall. For a moment that felt like eternity, the noise and chaos around them faded away. Adam felt something brush against his mind, gentle as a whisper but powerful as a storm. Please. Her voice echoed in his thoughts, soft and desperate. Help me. The telepathic contact lasted only seconds before the dampener flared to life, causing Ilya to gasp in pain and cutting the connection. But those seconds changed everything. Adam had felt her terror, her hope, her incredible strength. Even in the face of despair, this wasn't just another victim. This was someone worth saving. His hand shot up before his rational mind could stop him. 300,000, he called out, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. A ripple of interest passed through the crowd. Serious money had just entered the game. Adam felt eyes turning toward him, assessing this new player. He kept his expression neutral, playing the role of a wealthy collector with exotic tastes. The bidding war the next few minutes passed in a blur of escalating numbers. Adam found himself locked in a bidding war with a grotesque hut-like creature in the front row and a cold-eyed human woman who looked like she collected beautiful things for unpleasant purposes. Each time someone outbid him, Adam saw hope flicker and die a little more in Ilya's eyes. 500,000? 600? 700. Adam's carefully hoarded credits disappeared with each bid. Money he had saved for his own eventual escape from this war-torn galaxy. But every time he looked at Ilya, saw the way she held herself with dignity despite everything, he knew he couldn't stop. The hut dropped out at 800,000, leaving only Adam and the human woman. She turned to look at him then, her smile cold and calculating. You have expensive tastes, stranger, she said, her voice carrying the cultured accent of the core worlds. But I wonder if you truly understand what you're bidding for. Adam met her gaze steadily. I know exactly what I'm bidding for. 900,000, she called out, her eyes never leaving his. The hall held its breath. This was serious money. Now, the kind that bought entire starships. Adam felt sweat beading on his forehead as he calculated his remaining resources. He had just enough for one more bid, but if she countered, he would be finished. He looked at Ilya one more time. He was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read, hope and fear warring in her luminous eyes. In that moment, Adam made his choice. 1,000,000 credits, he announced. The silence that followed was deafening. The human woman's smile faltered for the first time. She studied Adam with new respect, then shook her head slowly. The game is yours, stranger, she said. Enjoy your prize. The purchase. The auctioneer's gavel fell with a sound like thunder. Sold to buyer 779 for 1,000,000 credits. Adam felt hollow and exhilarated at the same time. He had just spent his life savings on a rescue mission that wasn't supposed to happen. The resistance would court-martial him if they ever found out. But as he watched relief flood Ilya's face, he knew he had made the right choice. The post-auction procedures were handled in a private room behind the main hall. Adam transferred the credits through an encrypted account, watching his financial freedom disappear with each confirmation code. The auction house staff presented him with Ilya's documentation, transfer papers that legally made her his property. The word property made him sick. When they brought Ilya to him, she was still, shackled and wearing the neural dampener. The handler, a thin man with dead eyes, extended the control device with practiced efficiency. Your acquisition, sir? He said. She's been fully processed and conditioned. The dampener will need recharging every 72 hours, and I recommend maintaining the current suppression levels to prevent any unfortunate incidents. Adam took the control device, fighting the urge to crush it in his hands. Instead, he looked directly at Ilya. What's your name? He asked gently. She blinked in surprise, as if no one had asked her that question in a very long time. Ilya. She whispered, My name is Ilya Vox. Adam nodded and smiled. Then, to the handler's shock, he deactivated the neural dampener entirely. Freedom's first breath, the effect was immediate. The sickly green light faded from around Elia's neck, and she gasped as if taking her first real breath in months. The silver patterns on her skin began to glow more brightly, and Adam felt the psychic pressure of her awakening abilities. "Sir, I must protest," the handler began, but Adam cut him off with a look that could have melted steel. "The transaction is complete," Adam said firmly. "What I do with my property is my business." He turned back to Elia, who was staring at him with wonder and disbelief. Very carefully, he removed his jacket and draped it around her shoulders, covering the revealing slave outfit they had put her in. "You're free," he told her simply. "No one owns you, not anymore." Ilia's composure finally cracked. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she swayed on her feet, overwhelmed by the sudden absence of constant pain and the impossible kindness of this stranger. Adam caught her elbow gently, steadying her without making her feel trapped. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I felt your mind touch mine during the auction. You risked everything for someone you don't even know." Adam replied, "I know you didn't deserve what they did to you, and I know the galaxy's a better place with you free in it." As they left the auction house together, Adam couldn't help but feel that his life had just changed forever. He'd come here seeking information about the enemy. Instead, he had found something far more valuable, someone worth fighting for. The station's corridors seemed less oppressive now, the shadows less threatening. Elia walked beside him, still wearing his jacket-like armor, her natural grace returning with each step away from that horrible place. "Where will we go?" she asked. As they approached the docking bay where his ship waited, Adam looked at her, this beautiful, broken, brave woman he had just rescued, and felt his heart do something strange in his chest. "Somewhere safe," he promised. "Somewhere you can heal and remember what it feels like to be free." As they walked toward his ship and an uncertain future, neither of them realized that their story was just beginning. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of those who would hunt them and those who would help them. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And sometimes that was enough to change everything. The getaway Adam's ship, the Starfire, was a modified cargo hauler that looked unremarkable from the outside but packed enough firepower to punch through a blockade. As they boarded, Ilia marveled at the clean, functional interior. After months in cramped prison cells, the simple spaciousness felt like luxury. "We need to move fast," Adam said, his fingers dancing over the control panels. "The auction house. We'll report the dampener deactivation within the hour. Every bounty hunter in 3 sectors will be looking for us." Elia settled into the co-pilot seat, still wearing his jacket like a protective shield. Her newly freed psychic abilities were overwhelming her senses, picking up emotions and thoughts from across the station. Adam's mind was a steady beacon of determination and kindness that helped anchor her in the chaos. The ship lifted off smoothly, slipping out of the docking bay among dozens of other vessels. Adam had filed a flight plan to the mining colonies, but once they reached open space, he changed course toward the outer rim. "There's a place I know," he explained, as hyperspace opened before them. "A world called Lumina in the Crystal Moon system. It's off the trade routes. Peaceful. We can hide there while you recover." Ilia watched the stars streak past, feeling truly free for the first time in over a year. "Why did you save me?" she asked suddenly. "You don't know anything about me? I could be a criminal, a terrorist, anything." Adam was quiet for a long moment. "When you touched my mind back there, I felt who you really are. Your pain, yes, but also your strength, your compassion. You're not a criminal, Ilia. You're someone who was stolen from her life and deserves to get it back." The sincerity in his voice made her chest tight with emotion. "On my world, we call it soul-seeing, the ability to look past surfaces and perceive someone's true nature. It's considered a sacred gift." "What do you see when you look at me?" Adam asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Ilia studied his profile as he piloted the ship. Even without her psychic abilities, she could see the strength in his jaw, the determination in his eyes, the way his hands moved with practiced confidence. But with her freed senses, she perceived so much more. "I see someone who carries great, pain but refuses to let it make him cruel, she said softly. Someone who fights not for glory or revenge, but because he believes the galaxy can be better. And I see loneliness. You've been alone for a very long time. Adam's hands tightened slightly on the controls. The war takes everything from you. Eventually, family, friends, home. Fighting becomes all you have left. Not anymore, Ilya said, reaching out to touch his arm gently. Now you have me. Sanctuary World Lumina was everything Adam had promised and more. The planet gleamed like a jewel against the backdrop of space. Its surface covered in crystalline formations that caught and refracted the light of its twin suns. As they descended through the atmosphere, Ilya gasped at the beauty below. Vast. Crystal forests stretched to the horizon, their translucent trees chiming softly in the wind. Streams of liquid silver wound between them, and in the distance, mountains of pure gemstone caught the sunlight and threw it back in rainbow cascades. It's incredible, Ilya breathed, like a world made of dreams. Adam brought the ship down. In a hidden valley he had discovered months earlier during a supply run, a small cabin sat nestled among the crystal trees, built by some long-gone prospector and now serving as Adam's secret retreat. As they settled into the cabin, Ilya began to truly relax for the first time since her capture. The constant fear that had gripped her for months slowly loosened its hold. Adam was respectful of her space, giving her the bedroom while he took the couch, never pushing or demanding anything from her. Days passed in peaceful routine. Adam showed her the crystal gardens where edible fruits grew in geometric perfection. Ilya taught him meditation techniques from her homeworld, helping him find calm in the midst of his warrior's mind. Slowly, carefully, they began to know each other. Growing closer, tell me about Valorous, Adam said one evening as they sat by the cabin's fireplace. The crystal logs burned with cold flame, casting prismatic light across their faces. Ilya's expression grew wistful. It was a world of mists and floating cities. My people valued harmony above all else, using our psychic gifts to maintain balance in all things. I was a harmony keeper, responsible for mediating disputes and healing emotional wounds. What happened to it? The Dominion came with promises of prosperity and protection. By the time we realized their true intentions, it was too late. They harvested my people like crops, selling us to the highest bidders across the galaxy. Voice remained steady, but Adam could see the pain in her luminous eyes. I'm sorry, he said simply. Don't be sorry, Ilya replied, moving closer to him on the couch. Be grateful. Our meeting wasn't an accident, Adam. I felt the threads of destiny when our minds touched. You were meant to find me, just as I was meant to find you. Adam looked. At her, really looked. The harsh slave outfit had been replaced with simple clothes they had found in the cabin. Her silver markings glowed softly in the firelight, and her white hair cascaded over her shoulders like moonlight. She was beautiful, yes, but it was her inner strength that truly captivated him. I've never believed in destiny, he admitted. In my experience, the universe is random and cruel. Perhaps, Ilya said, reaching up to trace the scar that ran along his jawline. But sometimes, in the midst of all that cruelty, something beautiful happens. Sometimes two broken souls find each other and become whole. Her touch sent electricity through him. Adam caught her hand gently, bringing it to his lips to press a soft kiss to her palm. Ilya, I need you to know that I don't expect anything. From you, what you've been through, the trauma you've endured. I would never presume to, she silenced him by placing a finger against his lips. I know, she whispered. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you safe. The first kiss, the moment stretched between them, filled with possibility and promise. Leah's psychic senses could feel Adam's desire carefully controlled and respectful, waiting for her permission. It was that restraint, that consideration for her feelings, that made her decision easy. She leaned forward and kissed him. It started soft and tentative, a question rather than a demand. But when Adam responded with gentle passion, Ilya felt something long frozen inside her begin to thaw. This wasn't the crude grabbing and taking she had endured in captivity. This was communion, connection, the meeting of two souls who had found something precious in each other. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Ilya rested her forehead against his, her silver markings pulsing with a warm inner light. "I've never chosen before," she whispered. "Everything that happened to me was taken, forced, stolen, but this, with you, this is my choice." Her face gently in his hands. "Are you sure? We can take as much time as you need." In answer, Ilya kissed him again, deeper this time, pouring all her gratitude and growing affection into the contact. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright, with tears of joy rather than sorrow. "I'm sure," she said. "For the first time in over a year, I'm completely sure about something." Love among the crystals that night, they made love under the light of luminous twin moons. Adam was incredibly gentle, treating Ilya like something precious and fragile. Every touch was a question, every caress, a gift freely given and received. Ilya had never experienced such tenderness, such reverence. Afterward, as they lay entwined in the cabin's soft bed, Ilya traced patterns on Adam's chest with her fingertips. Her silver markings had spread during their lovemaking, creating new configurations across her skin that pulsed with satisfied warmth. "On Valoris, we have a saying," she murmured against his shoulder. "When two minds touch in perfect harmony, they create something greater than the sum of their parts." "Is that what this is?" Adam asked, stroking her hair. "I think so," she replied. "I can feel your emotions now, even without trying. Your contentment, your peace. It's beautiful." They spent the following weeks in blissful isolation, learning each other's bodies and souls. Adam taught Ilya to pilot the ship and use various weapons. Ilya helped Adam unlock mental techniques that made him faster and more intuitive in combat. They were becoming something new together, something powerful. But their paradise couldn't last forever. The hunters arrived, the attack came at dawn. Just as Adam was teaching Ilya to shoot with a plasma rifle among the crystal trees, his enhanced senses, sharpened by Ilya's training, picked up the approaching ships before their sensors could. "Company," he said grimly, pulling Ilya behind a large crystal formation. "3 ships, military configuration, they found us." Ilya closed her eyes, extending her psychic senses toward the approaching vessels. What she found there made her blood run cold. "Bounty hunters," she confirmed. "And something else. Something dark and hungry. They're not just here for the reward, Adam. They're here for sport." Adam cursed under his breath. He had hoped they would have more time before the hunters tracked them down. "The cabin has a hidden bunker underneath. Emergency supplies, weapons, a short-range transmitter. If something happens to me, nothing is going to happen to you," Ilya said fiercely. "We're in this together." The first ship landed in the clearing near their cabin, disgorging armed figures in combat armor. Adam recognized the lead hunter immediately. Vex Kronos, a former military officer who had turned to bounty hunting after being court-martialed for war crimes. He was known for never bringing his targets back alive, Reeves. Kronos' amplified voice echoed across the valley. "We know you're here. Give us the psychic, and we might let you live long enough to watch us break her properly." Adam felt Ilya tense beside him, her newly awakened powers beginning to flare with anger. The crystal trees around them started to resonate with harmonic frequencies, responding to her emotional state. "How many?" Adam asked quietly. 12, Ilya replied, her psychic senses mapping their positions. "But Adam, there's something else. The dark presence I sensed. ... It's not human. Something they brought with them. Something that feeds on psychic energy." Before Adam could respond, the world exploded into chaos as the hunters opened fire on their position. Battle in the crystal forest plasma bolts sizzled through the air, shattering crystal trees and sending rainbow fragments flying like deadly confetti. Adam rolled behind a larger formation, pulling Ilya with him as superheated energy beams carved molten channels in the crystalline landscape. "Stay low," Adam instructed, checking his rifle's charge. "I'm going to circle around and try to thin their numbers." "No," Ilya said firmly, her silver markings now blazing with inner fire. "We do this together, or not at all." As if to emphasize her point, she extended her hand toward a cluster of hunters advancing through the trees. The crystal formations around them began to sing, their harmonic frequencies building to a crescendo that shattered the hunters' equipment and sent them stumbling in disorientation. Adam stared at her in amazement. "I thought your powers were suppressed." "They were," Ilya replied, her eyes now glowing with the same inner light as her markings. "But trauma and love are powerful catalysts. I'm not the same person you rescued, Adam. I'm becoming something new." Together, they moved through the crystal forest like a perfectly synchronized unit. Adam's military training and enhanced reflexes kept them ahead of the hunters' weapons, while Ilya's expanding psychic abilities turned their environment into an ally. Crystal trees bent to block incoming fire, streams of liquid silver rose to blind their enemies, and the very air seemed to sing with protective harmonies. But their opponents were professionals, and they adapted quickly to the strange battlefield. "The dark hunger enough games," Kronos snarled into his communicator. "Release the Void Wraith." A chill ran down Ilya's spine as she felt something ancient and malevolent stir to wakefulness. From the largest hunter ship, a shadow began to pour out like liquid darkness. It moved against the natural flow of light and shadow, creating a zone of absolute black that hurt to look at directly. "What is that thing?" Adam demanded, his enhanced senses screaming warnings at him. "A psychic predator," Ilya replied, her voice tight with fear. "They're creatures from the dark spaces between stars. The Dominion uses them to hunt down psychics who escape their control." The Void Wraith flowed across the crystal landscape, leaving withered, colorless destruction in its wake. Where it passed, the singing crystals fell silent and the silver streams turned black. It was the antithesis of everything beautiful about Lumina. "It feeds on psychic energy," Ilya continued, backing away from the approaching darkness. "And it won't stop until it's drained every last bit of power from me." Adam positioned himself between Ilya and the approaching creature, his rifle trained on the writhing mass of shadow. "Then we don't let it get close." His plasma bolts passed harmlessly through the wraith, disturbing its form but causing no real damage. The creature continued its relentless advance, and with each meter it covered, Ilya could feel it pulling at her newly awakened abilities. "Physical weapons won't work," she gasped, fighting against the creature's psychic drain. "Only pure mental energy can hurt it, and I'm not strong enough alone." That's when Adam made a decision that would change both their lives forever. "The bond of souls? Then we don't do this alone," Adam said, reaching for Ilya's hand. "You said two minds in harmony create something greater. Let's find out how much." Greater? Ilya looked at him in shock. "Adam, you're not psychic. The mental connection I'm proposing, it could burn out your mind completely." "I trust you," he replied simply. "And I love you. It has to count for something." Without hesitation, Ilya grasped his hand and opened her mind completely. Adam felt her consciousness rush into his, alien and beautiful and overwhelming. A moment. He thought his sanity would shatter under the assault of pure psychic energy, but then something remarkable happened. Instead of burning him out, Ilya's power found resonance with something deep inside him, his human determination, his warrior spirit, his capacity for love and sacrifice. These things became fuel for her abilities. Together, created something neither could achieve alone. The crystal forest around them exploded into song as their combined will reshaped reality itself. Trees grew to impossible heights, their branches interweaving to form a living cathedral of light and sound. The streams of liquid silver rose into spiraling towers that caught and amplified their psychic energy. The Void Wraith recoiled as waves of pure creative force washed over it. For the first time in its ancient existence, it encountered something it couldn't simply devour. The power of love. Adam and Ilya rose together, their feet leaving the ground as psychic energy lifted them above the crystal canopy. Ilya's markings had spread to cover her entire body, and incredibly, similar patterns were beginning to appear on Adam's skin, silver threads that connected him to her power. "Impossible," Kronos breathed, watching from his position among the hunters. "Humans can't channel psychic energy." "This human can," Ilya said, her voice carrying across the battlefield with supernatural clarity, "because he's not alone." The Void Wraith gathered itself for one final assault, drawing in darkness. From across the system, to fuel its attack. But as it struck, Adam and Ilya struck back with the combined force of love, determination, and hope given psychic form. Light exploded across Lumina as their power met the creature's darkness. Where the energies collided, new crystals formed, more beautiful and complex than anything the planet had ever produced. The Void Wraith's scream of dissolution echoed across dimensions as it was transformed from a creature of hunger into pure creative energy. The remaining hunters, seeing their ultimate weapon destroyed, broke and ran for their ships. All except Kronos, who stood transfixed by the impossible sight before him. "You think you've won?" he snarled, raising his weapon. "There are thousands more like me out there. Yes. The Dominion will never stop hunting you." Adam and Ilya descended, slowly, their feet touching crystal ground that now sang with permanent harmony. The power still flowed between them, but it was controlled now, purposeful. "Let them come," Adam said quietly. "We're not running anymore." The revolution begins. Word of what happened on Lumina spread quickly through the underground networks. A human and a psychic, working in perfect harmony, had destroyed a Void Wraith and defeated an entire hunter team without killing a single person. It was the kind of story that sparked hope in the darkest places. Within days, Adam's ship was receiving messages from across the galaxy. Escaped slaves seeking refuge. Resistance cells asking for help. Psychics who had heard rumors of a safe haven where their abilities were valued rather than exploited. "We can't save them all," Adam said as they reviewed the latest batch of requests. The cabin had been expanded using their combined abilities. Crystal walls grown from the living planet to accommodate the growing number of refugees. "We don't have to save them all," Ilya replied, her hand intertwined with his as they planned their next mission. "We just have to show them how to save themselves." She was right. Each person they rescued, each successful mission created ripples that spread throughout the galaxy. Former slaves became freedom fighters. Rescued psychics used their abilities to coordinate resistance efforts. The revolution wasn't built on violence or hatred, but on the simple principle that all sentient beings deserve dignity and choice. The new path. Months later, Adam and Ilya stood on the observation deck of their new ship, watching as a convoy of rescued beings departed for a hidden colony in the Outer Rim. Their fleet had grown to dozens of vessels, one staffed by volunteers, who had found purpose in the fight for freedom. "Do you ever regret it?" Leah asked, leaning against Adam's shoulder. "Giving up your old life for this?"
Adam
considered the question seriously.
Ow.
His old life had been one of endless conflict, fighting a war that seemed unwinnable against an enemy too vast to defeat. But now, with Ilya beside him and a cause worth believing in, he felt something he had never experienced before. Hope. "Never," he said, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "This is what I was meant to do. What we were meant to do." Ilya smiled, her silver markings pulsing with contentment.
Ow.
Through their bond, she could feel the truth of his words. They had both been broken by the galaxy's cruelty, but together they had forged something beautiful from the pieces.
Oh.
The harmony. "Keepers of Valeris had a prophecy," she said softly. "They spoke of a time when the barriers between species would fall, when understanding would triumph over fear. They called it the Great Convergence. You think that's what this is?" "I think it's the beginning," Ilya replied. "One rescued life at a time, one open mind at a time, one act of love at a time," as their ship turned toward the next system. Toward the next mission, toward a future bright with possibility. Adam and Ilya felt the galaxy itself shift around them. Change was coming, carried on the wings of hope and powered by the simple truth that love could triumph over any darkness. Their story had begun in a market of monsters, but it would end with the transformation of the galaxy itself. And it all started with a whisper that pierced a soul. A connection that bridged the gap between two broken hearts and the courage to choose love over fear. In the vast expanse of space, their ship sailed on, carrying its cargo of hope toward whatever challenges awaited. Behind them, Lumina sang its crystal song, a beacon of harmony that would guide other lost souls home. And across the galaxy, in slave markets and prison cells, in resistance hideouts and refugee camps, Beings looked up at the stars and dared to dream of freedom. The revolution had begun.